Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of Chojin-Chumps. I'm your host, John, and here with my brother and host, Jay, and we want to take you on a journey through the magical world of Sentai. Jay, you want to explain the name for us? And why we started?
Oh yeah, simple enough. Chojin-Chumps. Chojins means super. You'll see it in a lot of these Sentai titles. Chumps, because I think that's a very fitting description of us as human beings.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know what I mean? With the world slowing down due to all the craziness out there, this has been something we wanted to do. It's been on the back burner. But the stars aligned and we were like, you know what? Let's not put it off anymore. Let's launch this.
Yeah, and we're excited to be here with you, and we're excited to be doing this because at our core, we love this series. We love this franchise. So let's start with that. Our experience actually isn't with Sentai. This is going to be the second Sentai series we've watched. Our relation is to Power Rangers, right?
Oh yeah, well, and I'm sure that's the base knowledge for like almost most people in America.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I know I wasn't fully even aware of Sentai until later in life, but we'll get to that later. But no, yeah, we grew up with Power Rangers. We Saturday mornings or coming home from school. I mean, they had their little hour set up on what was it, Fox? I know Disney had theirs for a bit.
Oh yeah. We grew up watching this. I'm a little older than Jay, and so he really had to watch it because I was watching it. And we grew up watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, particularly two episodes. Two series, I guess. You have the Green with Evil little mini arc that we watch constantly because my grandma had a copy of that, and for some fucking reason, the Pudgy Pig episode, in which
We got the best of both worlds, in my opinion.
yeah. And for the record, the Green with Evil was recorded straight from TV. The Pudgy Pig episode, for some reason, was the legitimate copy. They sold it, and that's the one my grandma picked up. So, let's jump into this first by talking about what are Power Rangers, and then brain go boom. And then we'll talk about Sentai and how they compare. So
Yeah, it's easier to start off with Power Rangers because, again, that's what I imagine most of y'all are aware of. Most of y'all know. Even in passing, like you know what Power Rangers are because they were huge. But
they are huge.
On paper, brief rough draft of what Power Rangers are: a group of heroes, typically a team of 5. They are usually chosen by a wise and powerful person or group. Sometimes it's an organization, and they are chosen to defend Earth by becoming Power Rangers. These multicolored spandex-wearing heroes that morph to combat monsters and are usually mass-produced by some big evil in the distance. And along the way, they get multiple upgrades, get multiple tools, most notable being the giant freaking robots that they're known for.
Yeah, the
But,
Zords.
at the root of it all, no matter what, their strength comes really from teamwork and friendship. And that's pretty much what Power Rangers has been, no matter what you pair it with. If you put it magic-based, if you make it science-based, give them cars, give them wands, give them freaking sharks with laser beams on their heads. It doesn't matter. That's at its core what Power Rangers has been.
So, yeah, and for those of you who are babies and were babies, y'all don't remember.
I'm guilty of that because I watched this on the very heels of when it was finishing.
Yeah. We grant you the rank of we grant you the rank of 90s baby, but you're not on the council. Uh,
Pretty much 96.
is it 96? I keep thinking it's 97. Uh, so for those of you who don't remember, because I barely remember, it was a worldwide. Well, we say worldwide, and that's super American centric when you think about it. But it was huge.
It eventually got there.
Yeah, it eventually got there. It was huge in America. It debuted in the early 90s, and it's still being shown today. And so it was produced by MMPR Productions and distributed by Saban Entertainment. Eventually, it was sold to Disney for a little bit and then bought again by Saban. And as of 2019, it has 27 series under its belt. That means for just the Power Rangers, it has been going on literally as long as I've been alive, right? 27 years.
Give or take. Well, not exactly years. Like when we say series, because I know as we're going to talk about, Mighty Morphin ran for just more than just a typical series.
Yeah. When did the
But
first?
no, yeah,
I thought it came out in 93. Yeah. So it is literally as old as I am. And as such, this has led.
And much like yourself, the quality has dipped.
Okay, time out. We cannot get on that wagon. We can't do it. We haven't seen. Have you seen Jungle Fury? Have you seen like Arg We Be Pirates? I haven't.
I've actually seen Jungle Fury.
Okay.
And I actually seen most of Samurai too. So
okay, my bad, dog. My bad. And that brings us to another point, real quick, before we continue. Our relationship with Power Rangers has also changed. I might be jumping ahead, but I stopped watching right around let's see, which one was the one that made you cry? Mystic Force.
No, I cried when they announced Ninja Storm because I didn't like a team of 3, and
dude, I remember.
Funny enough, I didn't like that the Yellow Ranger was a man.
We'll get to that in a second. No, I distinctly remember at the end when like all the Zords got to run free because magic. I don't fucking know.
You're thinking about Wild Force, yeah.
Okay, you cried at that. You fucking cried, and it was adorable. I mean, you were 14, but still.
I mean, like, I'm not gonna pretend to be the most mature person, but it was a beautiful scene of me not looking forward to Ninja Storm.
That being said, I watched Ninja Storm. No, actually, yeah, I watched Ninja Storm and I watched Dino Thunder. I ended at Dino Thunder.
Yeah, that was the last one you really followed.
But yeah, so I stepped away because I had high school, I had college, and not because I necessarily disliked it, but because I had other things. Jay stayed a little bit longer. Apparently way longer if he poked his head in for Samurai and shit.
You know, I poked my head in for Samurai and they never cleaved it, so like I blame them for my suffering. But no, yeah, I kind of stuck around. I was far less involved with things than you were. You were social butterfly going out and about. I was the guy who was just like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go home and watch Power Rangers.
I want to point out this was in fact not the case. I hate people.
But either way, no, yeah. So our relationship is different, which hopefully you'll see as we discuss certain things going forward. Because my views about what makes things good and interesting
are wrong
and are kinky and a bit perplexed, but that's going to be what makes this fun. Hopefully.
So
we are not promising a fun time here.
Yeah, you are in fact also chumps for watching us and listening to us.
I mean, get a life. Why are you listening to us?
That being said, this massive ass amount of time has led to, at least at first, a cohesive story. This is known as the Zordon era, named after the magical space wizard who basically started the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah, you know, there was and this is lore that I don't even think you get until like later in actual Power Rangers, the actual TV show. But no, yeah, magical space wizard who was fighting Rita Repulsa the big evil, which gets trapped in a tube of space time and shit. Because why not? In all fairness, he trapped her in a space dumpster, so I think that evens out. But the important thing that comes about this is just that for the first 5 series
Mm-hmm.
of Power Rangers, it was all interwoven. And look, Power Rangers are a connected universe in general, but these were literally right off the heels where it's just like,
Yeah, it was a
oh no,
continuous story, a continuous
oh
narrative.
no, our morphers don't work for this. Let's try going turbo. Oh no, turbo, our cars are busted. Let's try going Zeo. Oh no, I know those are out of order. I know the Zeo crystals are acting funky. Let's go ahead and head off to space.
So it included Mighty Morphin. It included Alien Rangers. Do you consider Alien Rangers separate from Mighty Morphin?
I mean, they do.
Huh. That's weird.
No, it's interesting. If you go to Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
legit, my Alien Rangers have their own little episode thing, and it only has like 12 episodes in it.
That is really weird because Mighty Morphin was at a point where, like, for some reason, the dino crystals and shit didn't work anymore. And for a brief, apparently 12 episodes, we needed Alien Rangers to come in and help protect Earth. But then Zeo,
But actually, if I
Turbo,
remember
and in
correctly,
space. Uh-huh.
I think the actual Power Rangers returned to children.
Something weird like that, yeah. And really, it created this huge storyline. So the first series premiered in 93, August 28th. It had 3 seasons in a movie and 145 episodes total. And this set the bar for literally everything Power Rangers in America. It set the tropes. Everything here was the norm. And ultimately, with such a long runtime, characters came and went, people passed on their powers, and this was all fairly unique to Mighty Morphin when compared to Sentai.
Well, it was fairly unique to the Zordon era in general.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
That's
once we break free from the Zordon era, that's when they're like, okay, let's try something new. Like, because I think literally after In Space, what was it, Lost Galaxy?
I think it was Lost Galaxy, but then it was Time Force, so we're right back into the weird connectivity.
But the important thing about those series is they have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
Not until you get like the one-off crossover episodes.
You get crossover episodes, you get series that are connected but split off, like Time Force. It's weird.
Isn't it weird to think that Ninja Turtles are canonically in Power Rangers?
Please don't hurt me.
I
I can only deal with so much shit, and
well, because if we're talking about the Zordon era, I think it was the Space Rangers that teamed up with the Ninja Turtles. Okay. Tell you what, we'll move on for the sake of your sanity, but just know deep in your heart that live action Leonardo is always going to be there.
he will always look like LL Cool J. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go. And ultimately, what it meant to us, what the Zordon era was essentially my childhood. It set the bar for what Power Rangers meant and what Power Rangers could be, and it was badass. But it ultimately kind of faded away for us, which brings us to Sentai essentially. What about you, Jay? What did Mighty Morphin mean to you, or even Power Rangers in general?
Power Rangers was just always a staple in my childhood. So the fact that it's been going on 20 plus years meant that at any point in time you could really just find an episode. I mean, you could always turn it on. There was always somewhere you could watch it, and it was nice. It was good, but kind of like how you were, where it's just like, well, once you start growing up, certain things become a bit more hokey. Certain things become a bit more endearing. Some things that just come off just plain dumb.
Yeah.
And I kind of drifted away eventually. There was still a lot to enjoy, but I started taking myself too seriously to the point where I couldn't take that serious.
Yeah.
But now that I mean, and this is what I a lot of people who eventually, once they graduate and enter college, or actually just get out of the school system and start realizing, oh no, the rest of the world is also filled with idiots. I don't have to pretend not to be one. Now I could just honestly put it on. Is it goofy? Is it silly? Yeah, but fuck it. Why not?
Yeah, there's definitely an understanding of yourself when you get older that brings you back to things you loved as a child. And that's why I'm super excited about this Sentai series. So, you want to explain what Sentai is?
Remember everything I said about Power Rangers? Just make it Japanese.
I'm going to add a caveat here. Because while, yes, it is
No, I have an English degree. Let me use words like caveat.
Okay, an addendum?
So you can suck my dick.
A note here. So, I feel like there's a big shift in demographic between the two. Mighty Morphin is straight up, I feel, paired and marketed towards children ages 5 to like 14. Sentai, however, especially in the earlier seasons and series, which we'll get to in a bit, is marketed for a slightly older demographic. I could imagine rather than that 5 to 14, more like, uh, 10 to 17, something like that, would you say?
It's definitely opened itself up to an older group. It tried to hang on to maybe the young adult audience just as much, whereas Power Rangers was just like, oh, you're 14 now? Get the fuck out of here. We ain't focusing on you.
There's darker themes, there's stuff like that, language that you don't see in Mighty Morphin, because Mighty Morphin is very much a bunch of
Saints?
yeah, goody two shoes. Um, so the production history of Sentai. It first aired in 1975 when Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger. That is
Well, and let's just go ahead and acknowledge that, because what we say for Mighty Morphin?
93.
93?
That is almost 20 something years later.
So when we say this place had a deeper history than what anyone in America knew, we mean that, because while Power Rangers had 23 series under its belt, Sentai has 44 main series. And you have to say main series because they've done so many movies, so many spin-offs,
There's
so
novels,
many,
there's mangas.
There's novels, there's mangas, there's like so many different things you can pull from. So when you have to say the main series, that's when we're talking about the actual show itself.
And it's interesting because it was made by the same dude who did Kamen Rider. He released it 2 years after Kamen Rider aired, I believe.
Well, yeah, because he was actually waiting on Kamen Rider to slow down enough for him too.
Yeah, so he is. I think he's still alive too. But he is responsible for this huge Henshin boom, I would say, right?
Yeah, because I think it's actually called the Henshin era, because Henshin means transform.
Yeah, so
and that's what these that's what these people do. They, when it's time for action, Henshin a go, and then they're off.
Yeah, so he basically created this, and at first these Rangers were all and you can stop me if I'm getting too far off track, were very military based, very focused on stuff like that. And it makes sense for the time period when it came out in. And it continued on for 20 years. And eventually it started losing popularity with, I believe,
Five Man really didn't do too well for the Japanese audience. And they were finally just thinking, like, it's had a long run as a series. Maybe it's time to.
Which I wonder if people were just burnt out on henshin stuff or if it was legitimately bad, because we didn't start with that one.
Oh yeah, and I don't. It's really hard to say. I don't think that one's available for us to easily find and watch. Maybe someday. But as of now, all we know is yeah, it was just they're finally like, hey, maybe it's time to close out this part of TV TV history.
However, in 1991, Chojin Sentai Jetman came onto the scene, and it
Oh yeah,
was amazing. This is the one we watched. It revitalized, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but it revitalized the franchise and was noticed by a traveling American businessman staying in a Japanese hotel. And he was like, I can sell this shit.
as Americans are known to do.
Yeah. And they brought it over. Well, they tried to bring it over. Jetman was not brought in. Rather, they waited for the next one after, which was Kyu Sentai Zyurangers. Zyurangers, there we go. And that was what essentially became Mighty Morphin. Now, I'll let you give them the rundown on this.
About Zyurangers?
Yeah, Zyurangers.
Zyurangers. So pretty much, yeah. Jetman was a smash success, and it brought a bunch of focus back to the industry. Because you know what I mean, they touched on darker tones. They went with a more mature lineup and themes, which is funny because it seems like Zyuranger dialed that back, but we're not there yet. But Zyuranger in of itself, it debuted on February 21st, 92, and lasted until February 12th in 93. So it literally almost lasted just about a year. It got a total of 50 episodes. And I guess because they had so much wiggle room after the success of Jetman, they finally decided, you know what, we're going to launch our first magic-based series, which is interesting because for us, like, that's... I don't think we got our first magic-based Power Rangers in America until, like, Mystic Force, right? Because I don't think there's too many people who consider Mighty Morphin, like, actual magic.
I don't know. He's considered a space wizard and Rita the space witch. It's weird. It's really weird.
But this one, like my brother has said, you know what I mean? Originally, Sentai was like military group, government group. Here's a private organization. This is like, nah, magic this time around. And so it actually kind of shifted what Sentai could be. So while for us, Power Rangers is the norm, Mighty Morphin set the bar and everything else was the wiggle room. This is the one that kind of like set the road for everything both groups would get. You know what I mean? It introduces new staples to the franchise. I mean, it's not going to be a spoiler if I say the Sixth Ranger, because you know if you watch Power Rangers, we all know Tommy Oliver came and never left. And so, I mean, this series is what brought like change to Sentai even more, and because of that, unbeknownst to us, you know, across the ocean, it changed what we would be getting. But speaking of change, I feel like that's going to be a good segue into this next part. But first, let's go ahead and establish this. Because what was your first experience with Sentai?
So, I kind of knew it existed, but I never really got into it because there wasn't a place to get into it. I want y'all to recognize this. I don't think I've said it yet. Zyurangers was not available to be watched in the U.S. legally. Meaning it wasn't put out on DVD. It wasn't on the web somewhere. It was not available to watch until I want to say last year or the year before.
I want to say around 2018. It was definitely very recently.
Yeah, it took almost 23 years to get Zyurangers here to the U.S. And so America as a whole has not had the ability to interact with this kind of media. So my first exposure was the Legendary War. It was an AMV that I saw on YouTube.
Hell of a first dip into it, huh?
Yeah, it was amazing. So someone took the Go-Go Power Rangers theme song by Buckethead, so it had cool lyrics and everything, and put it onto this scene from the Legendary War, which was a movie in Japan, featured all 44 series of Rangers fighting this massive evil armada. You saw all the Rangers there. It had lots of cameos. They literally pulled the camera, and it's this massive battle, and you're seeing Mighty Morphin, you're seeing Zeo, you're seeing all these things. Mind you, I I'm seeing Rangers I've never even seen before. And then when things are too tough and there's like this giant monster, they all get into their fucking Zords and start fucking shit up. It blew my mind. And I
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
because it wasn't even just bringing all the Rangers together. It was bringing all the villains together. So you had past villains as
yeah.
people that for us who we saw as the Titans, as these final bosses are all back, and now everyone's in a Zord. Oh man, it was one of the coolest things.
What
And
what
and that was your. And I remember sending it to you because I strictly remember, or strictly specifically remember watching the Nickelodeon Legendary War and being so bummed out by what I saw.
yeah. What about you? What was your first experience with Sentai?
You know, I was watching Power Ranger clips and YouTube recommends like, hey, you looked at this, so how about checking this out? And there was just this clip of and they weren't morphed. That was the thing. There was just these people. And I clicked on it. It's this guy who, again, even now I still don't know the full context of it. I know it's the American series would have been Mega Force, but so you just get this person who has his ranger gun, is walking towards like the bad guys in an alley. He's like, "All right, you bastards." It's like, "Whoa, whoa, what? You're a Power Ranger. You can't say that word. They're children here. You can't say that." But not in Japan.
Again, the demographics are different. That and not everyone's as prudish as America.
But yeah, and so that was my experience where I just see these, and it came off more mature, it came off more dynamic, and I kind of poked my head a little bit deeper, and kind of in the same vein that you with the Legendary War. And I never sent this to you, or at least I don't recall sending it to you. But I looked up for us what was one of the most iconic team ups in Power Rangers. Forever Red, the Forever Red
Right,
episode.
right, right.
Of course, Japan had its own version. Sentai had its own version, and I found that one where all of them are introducing themselves. And so I'm seeing like 15 other Rangers before I see my Red Ranger, and I'm just like, I am in an unbelievable place. I am ready. I don't know what this is. I just know I want a part of it. Inject it in my veins.
So
And I died. Too much
OD'd
pink
on
energy.
too much pink energy. So here's the thing. You might be able to tell now that there's vast differences. So just alone, Mighty Morphin covered 3 different Sentai series, had 95 more episodes, and was actively adapted to an American audience. And the reason for this was purely cost. It's funny because the way they produced this was they would buy the Sentai footage from Japan, and rather than pay to have it translated or whatever, they would then cut out the fighting scenes they could use and splice that into footage of the Power Rangers. That's why uh, the Power Rangers themselves had to fight so much outside of morphing because they didn't have a lot of footage to work with.
I
Not
had
only
no
that,
footage to work with.
yeah.
Every footage of them out of the costume were 5 Japanese actors who America was not ready to embrace yet.
Well, but what I mean is the fact that at the end of the day, uh, you only have limited amount of fighting footage to work with. If you have a 20-minute episode and you only have 10 minutes of morphed fighting because you had to cut everything out that was too reminiscent or too close to the Sentai. You need 10 more minutes, right?
Oh
You
yeah,
need
and
5 more minutes, and so that's
plus it's not like you even guaranteed that if the Rangers in that episode were fighting on Tokyo Tower, it's not like you could show that in America and be like, oh yeah, that's in their neighborhood.
that's an Angel Grove, right? Right.
Yeah, Angel Grove has that skyscraper.
So the American cast, and this is the way was done, literally until a couple of years ago, right? It's only recently they started making their own unique ones.
Oh yeah, it's only been recent that Saban was just like, let's cut out the other guy.
That being said, these guys would buy footage. Eventually, uh, in order to keep Mighty Morphin going, they bought other series of Sentai and spliced them in to Mighty Morphin. Or you got stuff like you have American original episodes because he commissioned scenes and monsters from overseas, so he could use because they really wanted to keep it going, and therefore you can't compare these two series, and that's not what we're trying to do. We can't say Mighty Morphin's better than uh Rangers. We can't say, oh well, this is how they use this monster and this is how they use that monster, therefore this is better, because the storylines can't even be cannot let me rephrase. The storylines can drastically differ from one another because uh they can't use the scenes. Hell, Jay, you told me about that the scene with the kid.
Oh yeah,
Tell our
so
friends about it.
that was this infamous post that it was going around. I think like maybe just a couple years ago, where because it was like a TikTok video where someone was just was watching Power Rangers and they're just laughing because it's paused and they're like, "Who the fuck is that kid?" Because there's just a child standing next to the Megazord, and for some people they're like, "Oh, maybe someone's kid was left on the set or everything like that." But no, it's like there's a canonical reason in Sentai for a kid to be standing next to the Megazord. And in the terms of Power Rangers, with their limited editing skills in the '90s, they couldn't edit out an entire child from a scene, and it was just like, so in America, you're just left with this weird child that realized in that episode that child wasn't even a part of Mighty Morphin in that episode, but that child plays a significant role in the Sentai episode, and so it's like, how do you compare that? How do you
Or
discuss that?
stuff where it just doesn't translate. There's episodes I know coming up that is all riddle based. How are you going to do Japanese wordplay uh, for American
For an American
audience?
audience?
You don't. Um,
You can't.
and so that's why it's interesting. You can't compare them. Uh,
Or
so
you can't compare them well.
yeah. Uh, so with that, I want to talk about Jetman and go into our expectations for Rangers.
Yeah,
So
because we kind of got to talk about Jetman, since for us, we were saying all the time, Mighty Morphin set the bar and the tone and everything to expect from Power Rangers. For us, who are just now entering this wonderful world, we decided when we were mapping this out, we're like, well, so there could be a better connect for the audience. We'll start with Z Ranger because that's Mighty Morphin. I mean, everyone's gonna at least have that pairing with it. And we're like, we'll go ahead and try it with Jetman to kind of dip our
practice our
toes in it.
podcasting, get some feel for what Sentai is.
Yeah, and so, but we have to kind of acknowledge it, because for us, that's setting the bar
Yeah, and it
for
set
better
the
or
bar
worse.
fucking high.
Yeah, when we, because we just watched it originally, and when we started mapping these, I was like, oh, let's actually start looking at the facts, and then we're like, oh shit, this changed the game.
Yeah, so Jetman really brought a focus back onto Sentai, like we said, but it did it by, from my understanding, being more mature and focusing in on the Rangers, right? So Jetman focused on this love triangle triangle. There was 5 Rangers, right? Yeah.
It literally starts with oh hey, you're you're part of a special task force, and you're worthy and patriotic, and a good man will make you a jet man. And then as him and his girlfriend, this is the Red Ranger, and as they're going to go become Power Rangers, the enemy attacks. His girlfriend gets freaking sucked into space, and I mean, is quote unquote killed off. The powers that were supposed to go to specifically entrusted individuals got scattered throughout the world, aka Japan, and yeah, it
This
started
all
off
might
dark.
sound this all might sound familiar to you, because by now, yeah, this is common shit. But at the time, it wasn't. And what we saw was a grittier, darker tone. Like legitimately, you see blood, you see skeletons, you see entire buildings get vaporized in an instant.
With
People
the
straight up,
screaming people inside.
yeah, people straight up die. But you also got to focus on these Rangers. It's about a love triangle between the overly aggressive and edgy guy, um, the refined Kaori, and then you have the love struck and mopey and honestly doesn't handle his mental issues well, Ryu, with the 2 others on the side, for comedic effect. And it got me super pumped for Zyu Rangers, for Zhu Rangers. I'm trying to pronounce them correctly, and it's hard because my American brain says this is how you pronounce that.
Dude, you have an American brain with a southern accent.
Oh god.
We got 2 strikes against us,
So it got
and
me.
you're just Mexican enough to also sprinkle that in. So, as far as I'm concerned, strike 3. We'll do our best.
I mean, it could be worse. I could be like Chu Rangers.
You want to be a ranger?
All
Oh, I'm
right.
so sorry.
So that's. I was pumped. I am pumped to get into it. What about you? What was your reaction to Jetman? Because I know we talked about it a lot, but I want you to tell the viewers or the listeners, the chumps. Tell the other chumps.
Uh, yeah, kind of in the same boat as you, because as I got older and I looked at Power Rangers, I love the concept, and that's the thing. I love the concept, and the other noteworthy thing is just like the Power Ranger comics carry a darker tone because I mean they're not expecting kids to read it, or I mean they don't have to worry about TV censors. So like I kind of started getting into the comics, and so overall like I was left wanting this darker grittiness. Now I don't want full on Snyder Justice League, but I was just like, give me something a bit more mature. Give me people I
Give
can
me
see
Frank
their
Miller.
struggles. Give me people like with struggles. Give me characters. Give me people. Because that was the problem. You can who on the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers can you relate to? Like seriously, because
Tommy,
I'm
because
like,
I also want to kill my friends.
fair enough, touche. But because like you see these kids and they're like, oh hey, we're pretty much saints. I'm gonna go teach kids, struggling blind kids, how to do kung fu in the park, while the Pink Ranger is gonna go carry 3 elderly women across the street, while Billy solves cancer in the garage in his weird ass car. Like literally, these people were so perfect, and so it was just like you could never connect with them, you could never understand them. But when I watched Sentai, I was like, I can understand this. I can understand that if a monster's grabbing me from behind, it's okay to grab his dick and then punch him in the face
This happened.
repeatedly. But yeah, no, it was definitely something where I'm like, I want more of this. And in all fairness, I don't know what we're gonna get in Z Ranger.
You. But yeah.
Whatever it is, I'm just like, I'm kind of going in with more faith and more, not even faith, but with high hopes, because I really want to see what this is going to bring.
Yeah. Now, I know I want to see in Zhu Rangers, I want to see not a darker tone, because that implies that it has to be kind of gritty. I want a mature tone. I want to be able to say, hey, this this matters. What they're doing matters to both them and everyone else. I want to see a focus on the Rangers because like you said, I want to care about who these people are. Show me who they are. Um, I also I want cool ass kaiju battles, and I want Goldar. Not even gonna lie, Goldar was peak villain in Mighty Morphin, and I want to see how he translates in G Rangers. What about you?
No, yeah, it's definitely interesting because you can't expect the same characters. I'm gonna assume you're not gonna get the same people, same character type. So I'm wondering what who these people are going to be. It's not going to be Rita Repulsa.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be Goldar,
Finster or
Finster.
I don't know what
Yeah,
the
I
other
mean,
two were. Bulk and Skull.
sure, why not? Monster, Bulk, and Skull.
Pretty much, right?
That's literally what I called them because I didn't bother learning their name. Uh, and so yeah, it's just like it's exciting. This is uncharted territories. We are off the map and onto a different mapped out area called Japan.
So, and I think this is important to acknowledge now that we are viewing this from an outsider's perspective. We're not going to understand the culture necessarily. We're not going to uh, know right off the bat what they mean or what. And some of these lessons or some of these events are going to ring hollow to us because we don't experience them or it's not
It's
culturally
2020
relevant.
and it's 2020 and we're in our mid 20s. I'm not gonna understand a lesson designed for
You're
school
in
children.
your mid 20s. I'm in my late 20s now. I'm old as
True.
fuck, dude.
Yeah, I'll start
See,
burying
rude.
you.
um, so it's important for us to recognize, and y'all too as well, that when we're going into this, we're going in blind and culturally ignorant, and therefore we can only make judgments based on what we see and our experiences. Um, that being said, that's all I have for the breakdown. What about you?
No, yeah. I think we kind of set the groundwork for not only what this podcast is going to be, but uh, what what we're going into, what Sentai is. And here's the thing: we're not trying to teach you everything. This isn't a crash course history. This is just literally let's all get on the same page as we just all dive in blind.
Yeah,
And yeah,
perhaps I should specify because maybe I didn't do a good enough job at the beginning because I can't even remember that far back. It was like 30 minutes ago. Uh, our goal is to watch this and react and discuss it, and hopefully do so with y'all as well. This isn't a history. This isn't a watch along kind of thing. This is well, no. Let me rephrase that because I would like y'all to watch along and interact. Um, but yeah, this isn't a critique or anything like that. It's just literally a discussion on the episodes and our reactions to it. Uh,
and this episode is just really kind of like a breakdown episode as we go on and do new different series. Uh, from this point on, we kind of want to do this like little session zero, a little breakdown episode. Kind of like here's context because context is important. It kind of can give you a better insight to what you're going into. I mean, if you would knowing what Jetman was in terms of what the Sentai was in general, that helped me have a greater appreciation for Jetman.
yeah,
And so we're hoping like kind of just lay loose groundwork. We're not trying to build the foundation here, but at least we have enough to stand on as we leap into this new adventure.
definitely. So, to wrap things up, follow us on Twitter at Chojin-Chumps. We are also going to be posting this on Podbean, I believe. Uh, mind you, if you're listening to this, you found it. uh, and then in about 3 weeks, once we've posted R3, episodes or so. We'll move one to YouTube probably. Uh, you have anything you want to? Oh, I know. We want to start ending each episode with a quote. Do you have a quote from Jetman you want to
Oh,
leave him with?
Jetman isn't exactly fresh in my mind, but there's always one moment that's always going to stick in my heart. And this is from the legendary commander, the unsung hero of Jetman,
Really was.
who, at this moment, to give you a bit of context, was literally shooting her gun at the Red Ranger, as good leaders do. But go ahead and use this to motivate yourself. I don't know where you are at during the pandemic. I'm not sure where you are in life, but I know this helped me, Jonathan, kind of get all this started. But from the commander of Jetman, I have no patience for your laziness.
And those are words to live by. All right. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Love you.
Bye.